Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this world full of raccoons and deers and sunshines and such amazing energy this morning. Well, if this is your first time joining us, my name is Sadie Uribe, and I am the media producer for the Los Angeles Regional SBDC Network. The SBDC is a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, helping to stimulate economic growth through business advising and development. We offer no-cost services to the local businesses through funding provided by the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, and from the California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, GoBiz. The Los Angeles Regional Small Business Development Center Network serves small businesses throughout Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. We offer no-cost business advising, meaning that you can meet one-on-one via phone or Zoom to address your specific needs and challenges. And we also offer virtual training and programming, such as this amazing show to help and adapt and grow your business. So on that note, Lori, my dear, how are you today? Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. I'm doing fabulous. And I was just saying, and I say this every time, where is time going? It's almost September, guys. So I know for those of you who have children, you're like, kids are going back to school soon. I know from going through the summer with you guys all the time, you're like, kids are on vacation, kids are going back. Good morning, Christine. I love with the frequent flyers when you guys say good morning. Okay, let's get started because as always, we have another fabulous show. So let me share my screen here and get going here. Okay, so I have already started to schedule my webinars for September, and Sadie is putting all that information in there. I see the last one is session 3. I see there's a 2 twos. There's supposed to be a 3 there. I've got the best legal structure for your company and what are tax advantages coming up as well. I do try to repeat that every month as there is so much confusion out on the legal structure side. I have to say again, I know I say this all the time, please don't just watch a TikTok video or a YouTube video and decide what legal structure you should be. Everybody does not need to be an LLC. There are often and many times good reasons to just remain a simple old-fashioned sole prop, okay? If you have any questions or confusion on that, jump in my webinar or give me a shout out for a one-on-one to talk about your specific situation. Once again, I'm going to remind everybody about this. I'm going to talk about this for a couple weeks. We are having a new program to write success stories, and success stories are clients who have participated with the SBDC, met with advisors, had a certain experience. We're writing up these stories, and they're used in many different ways. One of the important ways for the SBDC is these stories actually go to Congress, and the Congression reads these stories, and it helps for us to maintain our funding. They don't necessarily understand everything about what companies are doing, but when we write a story that somebody met with an advisor, they learned this and they had the success, they understand that, and that's very important. They're also used on the website, so you could have your company listed on the website, and by being written up, you get a PDF that has the SBDC stamp on it that shows that you were identified by the SBDC as being a success and a story was written about you, which you can use in your own marketing. And to those I said last week that maybe don't want to come on the show, I know you got a story, so let me write about you instead of interviewing you live. So Sadie's going to put my email in there if you're like, yep, okay, I think I'd love to have a success story written about me. These are the questions I'm going to ask. It gives you a feel for it. Just shoot me an email, let me know, and we'll arrange a time to interview, okay? So today I'm going to talk about some terminology. I have had this conversation so many times this week. And as you guys know, what I do is whatever conversations I'm having during the week, I create the Lori Talks around it. And I know I mentioned this before. I want to go over these terms sole prop, independent contractor, and 1099, and I should also throw in gig worker, actually. People are confusing these terms and they're combining them in certain ways that doesn't make sense. Like I heard somebody say the other day, I was a 1099 employee. That's not logical.
Mhm.
There's nothing, you can't be it's like being saying I'm a zebra and a giraffe, okay? One or the other, right? You can't be a 1099 and employee. So I want to give more definition because it's not the people whose fault that are confusing this. It's because it's confused in the marketplace and it's used in slang. Now, I always tell people I'm not trying to make you into an English major and make sure, oh, you used the wrong term. I'm not about that, okay? The reason it's important is when you are communicating, say, with a government official, you're getting a seller's permit, you're communicating with what kind of business structure you are, a tax person. When you don't use the proper terms, they believe you're a structure different than you are, and then it causes confusion. And I've seen many times people have been given the wrong forms to fill out because they didn't define themselves correctly. Okay. So when we look at the word sole prop, this has to do with what legal structure you are. An example of a legal structure: sole prop, LLC, C Corp, S Corp, nonprofit. You get what I'm saying. So these are legal structures. Legal structures that are incorporated, such as the corporations, the C, the S, the LLC, they are registered by the Secretary of State. So that's a legal structure that is registered by the Secretary of State. A sole prop is still a structure, it's still a business structure, but it is unregistered. You do not need to register with the Secretary of State in order to be a sole prop. It is the word we use is the default status, not default being a bad word, but it means that if you just start engaging in transactions, notice I didn't say make sales or money, I said transactions. You purchase things, you have expenses, you sell some products, you just maybe make some soap and sell it at the farmer's market. You did not register your company. Therefore, by default, you are a sole prop, okay? So that is what is deemed as the legal structure or the business structure that you are operating under. When we talk about independent contractor, we're really referring to more HR laws. This is where you're either an independent contractor or you're an employee. If you are classified as an independent contractor and something like AB5 or some other of the rules under HR deem that you should have been an employee instead, that's where the word misclassification comes in, okay? So if you are a business, a sole prop, a C Corp, a what have you, an LLC, by default, you got to look at it. You're really an independent contractor. You can't be an employee and a business owner. Now, when you are an S Corp, you are an employee of your company, but that doesn't mean you're an employee working for your client, right? You are by default an independent contractor. So these are different terms, but you can combine them together. So saying I'm a sole prop and an independent contractor, it's kind of like a given. If you're a sole prop and you're a business, of course you are. You wouldn't be an employee and be a business owner, okay? Now, a 1099 is like calling yourself a form. The main purpose of the 1099, and I like to explain it this way, it's allowing the payer, the person who paid you money, the IRS makes them tell on you. They tell on you to the IRS, hey, Betty just got paid some money. See if Betty put it on their tax return, okay? So when you think about a W-2, taxes are already taken out. The IRS knows you made money. They already took taxes out. When you get paid as a business owner, you are not going, the IRS doesn't go to the client and say, hey, pay me first. You get the money independent of the IRS knowing. So a 1099 that you receive saying, I got paid by business ABC a certain amount, the copy of it goes to the IRS in order for the IRS to match it up. So when you file your tax return with the 1099 you received, the IRS files and matches it up with the one they received on your behalf from the company that paid you, okay? So saying I'm a 1099 is kind of like saying I'm a form, it's what people are referring to saying I'm an independent contractor, but it's really a form. So when you look at these three words, it's really about what legal structure, business structure are you operating under? If you're in a business and you're operating as a business, by default, that means you're an independent contractor and you receive a Form 1099. If you're an employee, then you're an employee working for a company and you get a W-2. So hopefully that creates some clarity around this confusion topic of all these different words. Okay, upcoming shows. We got Fitz coming on next week. He's kind of got dual purpose to come on. He's a digital marketing specialist, but where he's really coming on is to tell about his experience with starting a company right at the beginning of the pandemic, riding the storm a little bit, closing it, and then doing a thorough audit of what he learned and what he would do different, and now in the process of starting again. He had such great insights as I spoke to him. I wanted him to come on board and share them with the audience. Jamie Milner, we had Ted, her father, on some time ago. Excellent, excellent show as well. You can check that out. But she's got such a wonderful spirit and personality, and I'm not going to give too much information until she gets on the show, but it's going to be a very empowering discussion about owning your power. It's going to be really fascinating. Dahlia from DF Accounting Services had her on the show several times. I want her to come back on and we're going to talk about how to choose an accountant, someone to do your taxes. I get a lot of questions on how to choose a good tax preparer, and we're going to have a discussion around that as well as other things relating to accounting. And then September 25th, Kathleen, who we just had on, she mentioned that she also had a company, The Selling Edge, where she taught sales skills. And I know last week we really got a lot of people in the audience wanting to know more about the selling aspect of it. So I said, Kathleen, come back on. Let's talk sales. Let's talk sales skills, sales training, everything about sales. Because you know, as entrepreneurs, you have to sell your own product. So that's a key advantage. And I got such a great response from everybody from that part of the show last week that I said, okay, we're going to come in and we are going to have a conversation just about that. Okay, guys, let's jump into today. Sahar Andrade owns Sahar Consulting LLC and is an advisor, a business advisor at PCR-SBDC. Sahar brings a unique blend of psychology, mindset, and marketing expertise to the table, recognizing that 80% of marketing is rooted in psychology. Very interesting discussion here. By understanding the neuroscience of the brain, she helps small business owners forge deep emotional connections with their clients. Sahar, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lori. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited because I know we are going to have a conversation that's going to go in many, many different directions on a whole lot of fascinating topics. So thank you for coming on the show. So let's start out by getting to know you a bit. So first of all, as you start telling me, you tell me how much I messed up your last name, because I know I probably did a little bit, so you can correct me on that. But give us a little bit idea of your background. Where did you get started and what brought you to where you are today?
Absolutely. Thank you. So it's Sahar Andrade. You know, you were very close though. I mean, it just that's great. I grew up in a different manner, if you want to call it. I'm called a diplomatic brat, which is like my father was a diplomat. So every 4 years we were in different countries. So I ended up living, growing, being educated in 7 countries.
Wow, that's got to be just a wild adventure and really a great framework to live by. That's
Exactly.
fascinating already.
Though I hated it at the time because I never really settled anywhere. But going through my story, you will see how much it influenced my life today. So I was lucky enough to learn 5 languages and speak them. I went to medical school, graduated as a medical doctor with an emphasis on psychiatry. Never practiced medicine because it was not my calling. And that's early enough, I understood that if I don't have the passion to do something, I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Even if I spent 6 years in medical school.
Wow.
You know, because at medical school, I went outside of the United States. So it's like 5 years and a half continuous. You don't get one day off. It's just like straight 60 months.
Wow.
And after I finished, I was in almost 21, I think. And I moved to the United States by myself.
Already
Family.
adventure at 21. You know, I spent 4 years almost. My first degree was in biology and science and research, and could have become a medical technician, technologist. And I was like, I don't even like being around sick people. This makes no sense. And I felt like I had my first career problem at like 21. So I get what you're saying, but you really had a fast track into world experiences.
And when I came here, I started studying marketing. And because I spoke so many languages, it really helped me international marketing. So I started working for airlines. And
Oh,
I would became very fast a marketing executive, you know, an area manager. And what I would do is like I would travel the world, basically, open offices in different countries based on their culture, based on their values, based on their perceptions, based on their HR laws, based on a lot of things. And that gave me like really a wealth of international marketing knowledge, if you want to call it. And then at a certain time, I was based in the Middle East, handling 100 Fortune companies that needed management consulting company in Europe, in the Middle East, and in Africa. And I did that for almost 4 years. And then I decided this is fast track, right? Like really fast about everything. And then I decided to open my business in maybe 2011. And I had a good marketing and branding background, but I had zero knowledge about business, zero. So I started thinking, I didn't even know what I wanted to open a business with. I didn't know, you know, and my husband told me, just start and it will come to you. So my first stop, I found PCR-SBDC. So I
oh.
became a client at PCR-SBDC. That's how I started.
That's an awesome story. That is great. And you know, I love it for those of you in the audience that you're not sure if you're doing the thing you want to be doing or you're not sure what you want to be doing. Take to heart, you don't have to always know. Sometimes it reveals itself, doesn't it?
Exactly. So I joined PCR-SBDC, and after that, I became one of their consultants. So, and I have been with them for almost 10 years now.
Fascinating.
And going through it, believe it or not, Lori, my first business card was global marketing and event planning, and I don't really do either now. I went through, I found myself having a passion for leadership and cultural competence. So we do cross-cultural marketing. So I did cross-cultural marketing for a lot of companies. And then I found myself moving towards cultural competence. So my main business is actually leadership, you know, and DEI. I do branding and marketing because I'm certified. I was the first class that got certified in social media in 2008. And when everybody thought it was a fad, I knew it wasn't. I'm also certified SEMA, which is like certified e-marketing, online marketing. So I found a fascination. And all this time, I denied myself that I had a medical background. I felt weird to say I'm a medical doctor.
Yeah.
And only 10 years ago, I started using my credentials. And I found that my uniqueness, because as a business, we need to remember this. We need to find a uniqueness to us.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely. You know, with that, I just on something, I'm going to go on a little side note because I just think it's something that our audience and people in general maybe need to hear a little more. And hopefully you can pick away with what I'm trying to say. You know,
yes,
especially at our age, we were led to believe that you were supposed to know at 20, 21 when you chose a major in school that you knew what you were going to do for the rest of your friggin' life. And there's no way, right? And I keep telling people that today we can be anything and we can change. There's no need to like force ourselves into this definition of what we have to be. And I think just when people get those words on whatever level, I just always feel them kind of go, oh, and the stress comes off of them and suddenly the creativity flows. Can you just, I know you already mentioned it, but can we touch on it one more time?
absolutely,
Human
absolutely.
development, any words of wisdom to people, because I see them struggling with this all the time.
I changed my career 4 times so far. Totally pivoted, you know, and one more time in COVID. So let's say 5 times. Uh, as a business owner or as a person, I don't find joy in something if I do it without my heart being in it.
Yeah.
That's my passion. But knowing my purpose, my purpose is, or my legacy is, I want to build bridges between people. I want to help people develop, but it was very hard to think about uniqueness. And when I talk to small business owners, when I ask them, what's your uniqueness? The first thing that comes to their mind is like, oh, I have the best experience. I have the best prices. I have the best quality. I do customer service. And I'm like, stop for a second. Everybody on this earth that has a business says that. It's not uniqueness anymore. Your uniqueness is what will let someone come to you and not to the 100 other competition that do the same thing that you do.
Yeah.
And it's better to go into a market that has competition than not.
Yeah.
Because when you have competition, that means that there is need for what you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, in that, can we also blend in a little bit of Lori being finance? What I always say is we got to find our uniqueness. We got to find what makes us passionate about getting out of bed in the morning, but we have to make sure it's something that the marketplace is willing to pay a price that allows us to produce it and have the profit to live our life. So we can't just say, hey, I just love doing this, but I need this much money to pay my mortgage. We have to identify what is financially feasible and we're passionate about. Can you comment on that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I always discuss with my client is, what is your passion? And you have to have passion, but you also have to make money. We are in this business to make money. I love making money. And let me tell you, as a woman and as the culture where I came from, I had a big problem when I started my business to ask for money.
Yeah.
And I had to change my relationship with money. And I let my clients know when they go, oh, I just want to charge $75. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Remember, when people pay you, they don't pay you for only that time. If you are a consultant, for example, I'm going to talk about products in a second. They pay you for your life experience, for your sweat, for your tears, for your blood that you put inside what you learned, your life experience, your ups and downs, your bad, your good, your bad, your ugly. They paid for that. They pay for your story. So coming back to the uniqueness, if you want to find what your uniqueness is, it's usually in your story.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And, I noticed another thing that I picked up when you were speaking. So when you were talking about, and I don't remember the exact words, when you were saying, I want the experience of building bridges, or I want the experience of, I find that is more helpful than saying, I want to sell products online. When you talk about, I want to experience and then identify what you want to experience, to me, that can create a foundation of the financial as well as the passionate, because you then get your experience and you go out in the marketplace. How can I experience this in a money-making capacity? And I know you must realize this, or you wouldn't have said experience the way you did. Comment on that as well.
Absolutely. Well, I realized, and I say this to all of my clients, if you don't make money, even IRS, I mean, I'm not a CPA, I just say that as an example. After a few years losing money, would consider you a hobby.
Yeah.
It's not a business.
Right.
If you treat your business as a hobby, your business would treat you as a hobby. So we have to make that acknowledgement. At the end of the day, we are in business to make money, realizing that there is a difference between gross revenue and net revenue.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Everybody that knows me knows I love net income buys a quart of milk. Look, and she said it too. It's not just me.
Net revenue is what you take home, is what you pay your bills with, is how you put food on the table for your family. And you have to care about that. And the one thing is, don't tell me, I just want to pay my expenses. I just want to make $2,000 a month. This builds scarcity mindset. And your brain will give you anything you ask it for.
Yes, so I agree.
Ask it for $2,000, it will just give you $2,000. If you ask it for just to pay the expenses, so you have to come from an abundance mindset. That's why the number one important factor in being an entrepreneur before marketing, before branding, is your mindset. And that's where psychology comes in. It's your leadership. It's your personal leadership.
I fully agree. And also, comment on this. It seems, and we've, like I said, been down this same pathway. So we share this passion about understanding. I always say, you know, there's magic fairy dust in my life, you know, the world is conspiring in my advantage. I say these type of things. And I believe that when you come at things with a level of fun, with a level of excitement, just like a childlike fun and just engagement with the world, something magical happens. I don't know why or how, but what do you're shaking your head. Comment on that. And because as entrepreneurs, we should be childlike and fun.
Absolutely. And that's why it starts with the mindset. We need to own who we are.
Yeah.
Okay. With our scars, you know, with our successes, with our not so much success. I hate the word failures because we don't fail. We just learn another way of what not to do something. It's all on the mindset. How do we look at ours? Do we have faith that we are good enough? You know, I go through it and I jump both feet first. People say, oh, I have to do, and just to let you, a quick coming back to when I started, I spent 9 months looking for perfection. Perfect mission, perfect vision, perfect stationery. And I did not realize that I was actually procrastinating.
Yes.
Because when I don't have the perfection, I have an excuse why I'm not starting my business. That's when, Lori, it clicked. Perfection, first of all, there is no perfection, right? Perfection comes from procrastination, and procrastination is rooted in fear.
And isn't it a little bit too of not feeling we're, I'm going to just use words, worthy, good enough? I know I have this, you know, perfection issue that I always have to deal with. And I remember one time I was, you know, doing the little have to be perfect thing, right? And so I went out in nature and I was looking at this beautiful landscape and I realized this tree's almost dead. This one's rotted. This flower's half off. And I'm looking at this and going, it's beautiful and perfect, but yet I have to be absolutely perfect with no tarnishes in order to be okay. It makes no sense. So where's our root of this need to be perfect and perfection that entrepreneurs have? Does it come from a not worthy as well as procrastination?
All comes back from fear.
Yeah.
The root of all evils is fear.
I agree.
Because when I want perfection, I'm not doing anything. And I have an excuse. My brain gets the logic part of it that I need to do perfection first. So we procrastinate. We don't do anything. But procrastination is actually rooted in fear. Fear of showing up, fear of success, fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of loss, fear of ridicule, and it goes on and on and on. There are at least 50 kinds of fear. And there is also, you know, specifically successful women suffer a higher rate of imposter syndrome. It's like, do I really know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Are people going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing? Was I just in the right place at the right time? And I suffer from all that when I started my business. And believe it or not, Lori, till now, it still creeps in. When I'm ready to go for a conference, speak in a conference, when I'm ready to, like I had a dream on my, how they call it, the vision board, that one day I'm going to write for Inc. or for Forbes, right? It was my dream. So I applied for Forbes, got rejected. Second year, applied for Forbes, got rejected. Guess what? The third year, they contacted me. And this came from my branding. Yeah. And I have been a Forbes Coach Council member for the last 2 years. So it's about
vision boards. I love, I remember years ago, I was doing this vision board and I decided to put on something completely ridiculous that I would never in a million years do because I was into hiking and I hadn't started rock climbing. People who know I was a big climber. So I put on ice climbing because I was like, I am never going to ice climb. And I remember it was like 5 years later, I was ice climbing and I pulled out that vision board and I was like, oh, be careful what you put on that vision board. You do not know. But I think they're so powerful. Then let me ask you this. Here's an interesting twist. So if we get our comfort within ourselves, we find something we're passionate about, we find something that is financially feasible. How does our mindset get kind of, I'm going to use the word absorbed in the minds of our customers, in our marketing? Because there's some kind of magical translation that happens where suddenly customers come to us, sales happen, and I know it from experience. So comment on how that trickles into our selling and our marketing.
Sure. So one of the biggest mistake that small businesses owner do is when I ask them, who's your market? They say, everyone.
Oh, I know. I know. Thank you for
All
commenting.
women.
A
All
billion
men.
people. I know.
And I have news for you. It doesn't work that way. So the first question I ask, and how that has been working for you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't work
No.
that way. And let me explain why. Because there is something in marketing that we call market segmentation, and it has been forever. And especially now with online presence and the different generations that we have to have a segment of the market that we call a niche. A niche is a specific small group of people that share the same interest, wants, and needs. Okay. Our business our role as a business owner is, first of all, our business is never about us, is never about our product or our service, and it's not about what we know. It's about what our customer wants and needs. And our customer do not necessarily know what they want or what they need. For example, if someone comes to me and tells me, I want you to help me ask for more money, or to ask for a promotion, or start a business, or leave a relationship that is toxic, right? And I tell them we need to work on your self-confidence and assertiveness. They say, what are you talking about? No. So what they need is assertiveness and self-confidence. But what they want is increase money and have a promotion or start a business. So it's very important for business owner to understand the wants of their customer. And every niche, every group of people, I call them buckets, has a specific want and need sector that needs a specific message. You cannot message millennials like you message Gen Z. Yeah. You cannot message baby boomers like you message X. You cannot message African American like you message Asian American. Yeah. So, and you don't have to be a culture competence expert. You just need to specify your niche. We say riches in niches. The more niche you become, the more money you can command. And because of my medical background, I always use this. If you have a heart issue and you have a choice to go to a general practitioner for $100 or a cardiologist that charges $300, which one would you go to?
Right, cardiologist.
Cardiologist, $300. Why? Because you know they have the solution to your problem. So you need to become, as an entrepreneur, the cardiologist. We never sell, and this is huge, we never sell a product or a service. We sell the benefits of the benefits. Once you start selling a product or a service, you are like everybody else. Your uniqueness will come in selling a solution. Like when we think about Volvo, the first thing that we think about, safety for your family. When we think about BMW, we think about luxury and driving machine. You know, so we have to become a brand. We have to evoke sensory and emotions, because a confused brain does not buy.
No, it does not. And thank you for speaking on the confused brain does not buy. I have a direction I want to go, but the minute you said that, I think we need to highlight this. I have had entrepreneurs that I say, "What do you do?" And they have a simple
They don't know.
product or service and they confuse me to death. And I always tell people that when you talk to a customer and you confuse them, they just do not buy. Simple is better. So there's two areas I want to bring, I'll tie them together. Having worked with larger corporations, as you know, they will use expressions like, we have to get 10% market share, we have to get $1 million in customers, what have you. But one of the things I tell entrepreneurs is you only need a certain number, which is usually a very small number of customers to support your finances. You don't need 1 million customers, you don't need 10% market share. And therefore, going to what you're saying in the niching, you can really focus and get to know what the benefits are and get clarity. So I think I'm kind of going from different places, but I'm talking about the same thing. Clarity, niching, knowing you're not trying to get everybody, knowing you just need a few, and having almost a laser focus on what you're going after and where you're coming from inside all together. Can you take that mess I just threw out in your lap?
No, no,
And
no, 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 no. It's not a mess, actually. You market to everyone, you market to no one.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Sadie, put that in the chat. I love that. You market to everyone, you market to no one.
To
I
no
love
one. You know, your message will fall on deaf ears. For example, let's take millennials versus Z, right? If you want to connect with millennials, they work on DM. That means they work on short messages. Okay. And they can accept the picture. But Gen Z that grew up on FaceTime, picture doesn't do anything for them. They need a video.
Okay.
And they need that connection. All right. Gen Z, for example, they notice diversity when it's lacking. So you have to be inclusive when you put your message, right? Gen Y they don't believe big corporations. Yeah. They are very environmentally focused. They are socially responsible. So if you have a company that caters to Gen Y, you need to have a message that is socially responsible. Like, we will give 1% of our revenue to clear water in Ghana, for example. Or I'm going to give 1% for women's shelters. Or we are using veterans in our workforce. Something that connects with what they believe. Okay. Z would like to, for Z growing up, actually, they are different than millennials, though people think they are the same. Millennials spent a lot of money for the education. Z got smarter. So they want to be the first generation that was entrepreneurial was the X generation, because they are the latchkey kids that grew up on their own. That's why it's important to niche your market. They grew up on their own, so they became entrepreneurial. Now Z are the next entrepreneurial generation. They started thinking about businesses and ways to change the world since they were in high school. So they go to school or they get some education and then they stop. They work, they get some money, then they go and stop. And they are really heavy on DIY. They're very heavy on videos. That's why if you're catering to Z, go on YouTube. Do YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts is having 3.5 billion views a month. Go on TikTok. TikTok is not going to help you unless you are actually going to Gen Z. Because older generations use it for fun, not for business. But Gen Z take it very seriously.
What I like is that you're really specific about who you're targeting, because if you take a boomer, for example, and you're on TikTok, you're not going to touch that at all. So I like that you're first, and if you say everybody, you're not able to niche accordingly. Can you comment a little bit on marketing to a consumer versus another business, B2B versus B2C?
Absolutely. So first of all, if we're talking to branding or online presence, all right, B2C, you have to know where your consumer is. And that's why you need to know their generation, their gender, and we used to talk about clients as only demographics, but now we are talking about psychodemographics, right? What's their interest? You know, especially with AI now, it becomes so much easier to do a persona for your customer, right? And you can find out where you don't have to be on every single social media platform. You just have to be where they are. If you are B2B, B2B is a different animal, if you want to call it. Your terminology is different. And that's why you cannot mix between both. Unless even on a website, you have to have, if you have B2B and B2C, you have to have different pages. You cannot mix them together. Again, you market to everyone, you market to no one, right? So a B2B, your terminology is different. And but you also have to brand your message to the category or to the industry that you're going after. So B2B, LinkedIn, hands down.
It still is.
Blogs. People underestimate the blogs. And I'm going to give a word of advice, especially with AI now. We are going to be moving from SEO, search engine optimization, to AEO within a year and a half, which is artificial engine optimization. So you have time to build your business to what you want it to be now. And that is by being present everywhere online. Comment on posts, comment on blogs, comment on articles, create your own content, especially with AI now. It's fascinating. Why? Because now AI is working more on quantity than quality, like SEO used to work before. But once it's going to get hold of the realm of the SEO, it's going to care about quality, not quantity. So have a presence today. Don't do like what people did when social media came and they ignored it, and now they're suffering because they did not jump on it. AI is not going to go. It's here. And whoever is not going to use it in 6 months, they're probably failing, because everybody else that is using it is going to have that progress.
Two interesting questions. They may be two different topics, but you'll figure out beautifully how to answer them. One of them is, for the person who has very limited time, what questions can they ask internally to choose what to use their time on? Because a lot of the times I hear from entrepreneurs, should I blog? Should I do this? Should I do this? There's an internal questions that they could go through to determine, which you kind of mentioned already, but I thought a nice little pattern summary would be awesome. And with AI, how do you utilize AI and then still maintain some uniqueness? So two different directions on that, but I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. It's all, I always say this to my client. Whatever is not on your calendar is not going to get done.
True.
Okay.
Yep.
Having a to-do list and all that don't work. The brain doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. Okay. And if you have something that you put on calendar 7 days on a row and it wasn't done, remove it, because it meant it was nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So from when I started, and I'm by myself, you know, and I built a high 6-figure company, right, from scratch. I'm doing my invoicing, my curriculum, my social media, my marketing, my branding, and I teach, you know what I mean? So it's just like you could say, oh, you're busy. Yes, but I still have time for my family. I'm a wife, I'm a grandma, I have dogs, and I enjoy my life. I travel a lot, we take vacations. Why? Because I prioritize my time. So if you look into my calendar, you will find that every 2 weeks, I blocked a time for a blog.
Okay.
There are so many tools for social media that you can schedule. You know, like if I know I'm going on vacation, I will prepare for that time social media posts and schedule them to go on time. So it's about working smartly, not hard. And you're saying, and I have been using literally AI a lot. I have no shame of saying that. And you say, how can we be unique?
Yeah.
Your uniqueness will come in your prompt engineering. Prompt engineering means, what are you putting as a command for AI to give you? And unfortunately, there are a lot of snake oil salespeople now that claim that they are experts on AI, And I look at it and I'm like, because AI, it's important to understand how AI works, but anyhow, to be very short, understand that so far, AI doesn't have context, doesn't have perspective, does not reiterate, doesn't know the future, cannot predict things, and it's biased. Because all the information that's in it comes from people, and we all have bias. So we all put our bias in it. So coming back, your command is called a prompt. Okay, prompt engineering is how you build it. People go and say, write me a blog. What does that mean? It will give you something generic. And this is something else, by the way, with the entrepreneurs. When they say, I want to help people, this is what I want to do in my life, what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to impact someone's life. What does that mean? Impact in what way? Who people? Doing what? Getting where? So we have to keep pulling the layers. So AI, the first thing that you need to put in an AI prompt is a function.
Okay.
So as my branding consultant and social media expert, as my nutritionist, because remember, ChatGPT passed the LSAT exam, the bar exam, the MCAT, the Medical Board Association, the sommelier test, so it has a lot of knowledge there. So it's what you put, and when you put all information, like who you are, your uniqueness, what you do, who your client in details, or you can search for your client. You can say, as my branding consultant and content creator, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is my uniqueness, this is what I offer. Create a persona for my client, including psychodemographics, their skills, their interests, their challenges, their pain points, their objections, what makes them take a decision, and you'll be surprised on the persona that you will get.
Gotcha. It comes back to clarity, and everything we've talked about is clarity here. Knowing that you play heavily in your leadership role, here's going to be the challenging question. Everything we talked about has to do with knowing who you are, what you want, what you're trying to achieve, clarity, clarity, clarity. Yet, and you tell me if you think differently, it feels to me that people spend the least amount of time on themselves and identifying clarity. So what can we talk about from words of wisdom, whether it's at least try to do this, or this is why people don't, or this is the benefit, wherever you want to go with this. But I feel as though everything comes down to you're not clear about who you are and what you're trying to achieve, you won't get there.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned leadership. Leadership to most people is an external process, right? Like you build teams, you motivate people, you inspire people, you empower people. First of all, empowering someone doesn't mean that you're bestowing power on them. It means that you are empowering them to empower themselves, right? And how can you motivate people and inspire people if you don't know what motivates you and inspire you? So where is the authenticity here? Yeah. So we always have to reverse the lens inside. So I do something that's called forensic leadership. It's like who you are, what's your passion, what's your purpose? And people mix between passion and purpose. Passion is the flow, is the love, what makes you up wake in the morning. Purpose is your legacy. And if entrepreneurs know really their why, they will find a way to manage their time, to go through the challenges of building a business, to take time, and Lori, when I started the first 18 months, I worked 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. Yeah. There is no way, there are no shortcuts in business.
No, there's not. There's no shortcuts in life.
Exactly.
Or if somebody knows one, let me know. I just haven't found one.
You do what you need to, you put your head down and you just go for it. And branding is about constancy and consistency. Why? Because the human brain needs to see you. There is something called availability bias. Whatever is in front of our eyes all the time, this is the first place we go to when we need something. Okay. There are things that we need to follow, like in our website. When we look at something, we go like this, right? we go like this. That's what we call that the Z format. So if a website doesn't have the Z format, it's not going to have the same effect as anybody else.
Gotcha.
Z format is like logo top left, call to action top right. The diagonal has to have either your USP or your credentials. The bottom will have the call to action or that small box, name, email, enter.
Gotcha. You know, another thing I've been hearing a lot lately, and it's a conversation that goes like this, especially with SBDC clients. They say, I want to be an entrepreneur because they hear that's a cool thing to do. And then they're trying to figure out what they can be an entrepreneur doing. And they're focusing on the goal is to be an entrepreneur rather than the goal of figuring out what they can do that somebody in the marketplace is willing to pay them for. That's kind of how I looked at it in simplicity. I don't know. Are you seeing this kind of like lackadaisical, lost new set of entrepreneurs that thinks the act of being or get that entrepreneur stamp on their forehead is the goal and are missing what it was that people actually got into companies? They noticed a need in the marketplace, they filled it, etc. Comment on that because I'm getting more of it. I don't know if you are as well. It's like the lost, confused entrepreneurs.
Yes. People go into entrepreneurship because it's made glamorous in the media.
And it never used to be. In our old age, it wasn't. It was like that's dumb thing you did versus getting a corporate job. That's how it was for me. But I think it's gotten too Hollywood now for its own good. It's become harmful in its Hollywoodness, if I can say that.
So, for example, that Bill Gates started Microsoft in his own garage. Zuckerberg starting in high school. Steve Jobs started like whatever. And it's never like that. It's not glamorized. It's pain, it's sweat, it's blood. You cannot be a member of a club without paying your member dues. You cannot. So you have to pay your dues. And if you're not ready for that, it's not for you. It's a simple, there is nothing wrong with having a job.
No, no,
but
look at all the experience that you got from having it. I tell the young entrepreneurs too, having a job lets you get paid to learn and experience to be an entrepreneur. There's nothing wrong with starting out in a job.
No, not at all. That's how you build your experience. Knowing that people go into entrepreneurship because they think that they own their time. They're going to be their own boss. No one is going to tell them what to do. But I have news for you. Okay. Your time is not yours anymore.
No.
Because you work on your client's schedule. You have control over it, of course. At the end of the day, you control who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. And I think in my whole professional life, I think I fired only 2 clients. And I fired them because my non-negotiables values were not aligned with theirs.
Yeah.
And I can't betray my values. Okay, this is big in my book, right? So they work, and you're not gonna have a boss. Guess what? Every client somehow will become your boss.
Yeah.
I know that at a certain time I actually wrote a book. I forgot to mention that, right? It's called 49 Things About Entrepreneurships That Gurus Don't Want You to know. So part of it is all that. It's like, it's going to get lonely. You're not going to have support. Sometimes people will look at you and tell you, just give it up. Don't listen. If it's in your heart and you feel that you can go, knowing what you have to do, go for it. Because at the end, the result is good. And don't say everyone is my client, because then, but everybody buys my products or my service. Look for the group of people that is the majority where the money is coming from. That's your niche. Yep. You're going to have if you're going for millennials, you're going to have a baby boomer that will buy from you. You're not going to say no, but it's the exception to the rule. It's not the rule.
Right, not the rule. And as we're closing up, one of the things I also wanted to talk about is I'm going to call it the safety net that a lot of times I find the most successful strategy is to maintain being a W-2 or some other kind of revenue stream while you slowly get into what you're doing rather than just throw all caution to the wind, jump in, and then wondering where your next paycheck's coming from. So I always like to express, like, maybe think of a plan and a strategy to ease into it. Do you comment on that as well?
Okay, I might have a different point of view on that, but again, I'm gonna explain why. When I started my company, I quit in 2 weeks and started the company. But I have a husband. I had
I was
support.
gonna say you have a backup, and I'm coming from it more financially for people. I see people that don't have the financial backing and put themselves in harm's way. But I
Yes.
agree with you on what you're saying. If you got the financial backing, take all the energy and put it towards it. But I'm seeing too many people not have a good plan and then end up in a
Yes.
financial situation.
You know what the challenge comes in, Lori, is that when they have a job, they always are tired and
Yeah.
busy not to put time in their
True,
business.
true. Very hard, walk a thin line between the two. I guess it's knowing your financial situation,
Yes,
your resources. It all comes back to numbers. How long can you go without a paycheck? How fast can you get another paycheck if you have to? Know the risk and know what's the worst thing that can happen and how you would reverse it if needed.
exactly. And you need to know that if you have, I have people that have a product or something that or they are in soft opening and they're gonna go full opening in 6 months, and they don't do anything till like 3 weeks before, expecting that people will be lines before, their services or something. No, build from today. If you want to go in business in a year, start building your brand today. Start building your blogs. Start building your presence on social media. Start having your keywords. Start having your hashtags. One of the things that you need to do is to create a hashtag that is yours.
Yeah.
Beside the other hashtags. You know what I mean? So it's about build anticipation, that people look at you as someone to ask questions. So later on, because remember, no matter what you do, you are the brand. It's not your business. Don't hide behind your business. You are the brand. You build your personal brand, because even now in big corporations, they are realizing entrepreneurial spirit is very important to their workforce. So they are teaching their workforce entrepreneurial skills.
Yep, they are. They are. In one of our last topics, as we're getting close to the end of the time, and tell me if you can relate to this, I feel as though good old-fashioned customer service can be a marketing advantage, because I see too many times people just do not get back to customer inquiries. They don't answer calls, they don't answer etc. And when you're working with a small company and you feel as though you're talking to the person, they get back in touch with you, you have a conversation, it feels so much better than the big companies who don't. Are you seeing marketing customer service as a marketing advantage that's being overlooked as well?
Especially if you're doing with Y and Z.
Yeah.
Because Y will expect a response within 2 hours. Z will expect an instant response.
Yeah.
And remember, their attention span is very short, very short. Like millennials are 25 seconds, Z is around 18, and 30% of them 20 to 30% have been diagnosed with ADHD. So if you don't get their attention like that,
they're gone.
They're gone, and they are never coming back. And they might put a bad review on you.
Yeah, true, true.
And remember, your social proof is a corner of your branding. Social proof means your testimonials and your reviews.
I like that. Your social proof is a cornerstone of your company.
Yes, absolutely.
Sadie, capture that one. That's a really good point to take home. Yeah, and a lot of times, people just, if they don't get the right amount of attention in the right amount of time, but that's fascinating between the different generations. I mean, I think as a baby boomer, I have no patience, but when you're saying is, wow, I have more patience than that as well. Wow. Okay, This has been a fascinating conversation in a million different directions, but it really, to me, the summary is you really have to focus on who you are as a person, what your company is about, who are you trying to communicate with in the marketplace, what are they about, what do they want. It's really not sitting there and asking the first questions like, should I be on YouTube? Should I be on TikTok? Those are not the first questions. The first questions are sitting down in a room with a piece of paper and just doing some introspection.
And again, it's not about you. Don't name your company based on something that means something to you, that means nothing to people. If your business name does not have keywords that tells me as a client what you do, and most importantly, tells Google what you do, you are in trouble.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, my company name, Business Simply Put, I didn't name that. I had a client because it was my original company had a different name and this was a DBA. But a client said to me, you make business terms very simple. I understand you. And that's where I came up with it. And I was like, what is my uniqueness? I take complicated concepts in finance and tax and legal structures and communicate in a simple way. So I would have never named Business Simply Put the way I did. It was a customer that actually gave me the idea. You're so correct on that. And I remember when I was marketing my seminars, I wanted to say, you know, well, you should be profitable. Instead, I realized it was like, do you worry that your company's going to fail? That's what people really worry about. This has been, like I said, just fascinating. Any last comments you would like to leave the audience with?
Yes. Believe that you're going to make it, and you will. But you also need to put in the work. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to happen overnight. But concentrate on your personal brand. Concentrate on who you are. Show who you are, because branding is a little bit of bragging. If you don't let people know what you do, you don't want to be the best kept secret in town. And you have to do consistent and constant presence online, especially now, especially with AI, right? Don't use titles like CEO and founder and president, you know, especially when we are a small business. President of what and CEO of who?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. It doesn't even help your presence online, because when people go and look for your service or for your products, they're not going to look for presidents or CEO, but they're going to look for a marketing consultant. They're going to look for a product in LA that helps me do this. So make sure that this is how you cement your presence online, minimum 3 times a week.
Perfect. You know, when you were saying that about a little bit of bragging, so true. I remember in my 20s, I recognized from watching others and looking at myself, and I said, because it's an old expression, I was like, I really need to learn how to toot my own horn. I don't think that's said that much anymore, but that is really true. We need to learn how to toot our own horn, because that's what our customers are waiting to hear about us. Fascinating, fascinating. Sahar, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to bring Sadie back. She always closes us down here. So Sadie, another fascinating discussion, wouldn't you say?
As always. I mean, for me personally, there was so many gems. And I think that's what the very cool thing about this show is. It's not about like sometimes Excel formulas, which are important. You know, we need a little bit of everything, but sometimes it's just like really like when someone explains things to you in like a way where you're like, that just makes sense.
I know. You know, at the end of the day, it's like we are not going to get away with not figuring out who we are. We can play whatever role we want to in life. We can be an employee. We can be an entrepreneur. We can be a mother, a father, a friend, whatever. We are going to have to look in and figure out who we are and what we're about one way or another. So we might as well just get busy and do it. Don't you think?
If not, it will be sad.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, Sadie's going to stay around for a little bit to get all your comments. If you want to reach out to me, she'll put my email in. I don't see anything going in the chat a lot. So if you had any comments that you want me to see, send them to me direct. Sahar, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your energy and your insights and all of the experiences you've had. It's been a fascinating interview, and I hope everybody in the audience felt that as well. So I want to thank everybody who's a frequent flyer. Thank you for being here here every single week. I sure do appreciate you. And those new to the show, I hope to see you again next week on another episode of Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. See everybody next week. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.